the first thing that I get to do with the county is historical data. We take our GIS, and what you see here is this is our ArcMap program done by Esri. This is something that we use in-house. It's not, you have to buy this program, so unfortunately it's not available. You could go out and buy it, but the data is the county's data. But what you see here is we've got Dahlonega Highway, Highway 9. This is just north of the city limits of Cumming. We've got an aerial photo that was taken back in 2012. You can see the homes, et cetera, et cetera. Now what I've done as a long-range planner is I had an opportunity to go down to UGA's map library. They hold all of the maps and historical photos from the state. And I was actually able to scan some historical photos that were taken by the U.S. Department of Agriculture back in the 30s. It took them about every 10 years, 30s, 50s, 70s, and so on, about every 10, 15 years. So far I've only gotten the 30s and the 50s done, but what you can see here is once I take those pictures and I scan them in, I can see what the county looked like here. This picture was taken, I think, in 1937, and this is what the exact area looked like. Just by knowing a couple of points, luckily our road system in the county has remained relatively the same. We've added new roads, but a lot of the old roads are still in the same spot. So just by knowing a couple of the points on both the aerial photo from 2012 and the aerial photo from 1937, I can actually go in and locate and move this picture so it fits right with the road map. This is also a pretty cool thing. It was given to me. This is a map of historical sites from Indian territories, from the Cherokee tribe here in Forsyth County. This map was done back in the 50s. And you can see here they've got some different points on this map where some different stuff, where some Indian mounds were, where the gold mines were hidden, all that kind of stuff. I took this map and just out of a whim put it into our GIS to see if it would line up with our mapping system, and sure enough it does. You can see here with these, they're really kind of faint, the red arrows. I matched up that intersection, and then I matched up the corner of the county line up there in the northwestern corner, and sure enough the map from the 50s overlays perfectly with what we have today. So what I can do is, in this case, number 59 is supposed to be an Indian mound, and you can see it's right here along the southern bend of Setting Down Creek in the northwestern portion of the county. So I went and I lined it up, and then I went and I turned on our 2012 aerial photo. The Indian mound should be right there. Now I haven't been over there to check it yet, but this is one of the things that I'm doing, is I'm finding where these things are on today's aerial photos, and eventually we can go out there and take a look and see if these things exist. Now unfortunately Indian mounds in the county for the most part have been bulldozed. When the settlers really took over in the late 1800s, they really came in and plowed up everything for farmland. So unfortunately most of those kind of sites are gone, but what you may find out there is arrowheads and other artifacts may still be in that area, because Setting Down Creek was very important to the natives of the county. Now publicly, we have a public portal, and you might want to write this down. It's maps.forsythco.com. This is our public portal. I'll say it one more time, maps.forsythco.com. You can go home and check this out. And all this is what I'm about to go over. I'll tell you what it is and what is not publicly available at this point through our online portal. But we use this, I use this on an everyday basis when I'm talking with people on the phone, when people come into our office, and sometimes even when I just need a quick answer, because the Esri software can be kind of slow. When you go to the maps.forsythco site, this is what you're going to pull up. You're going to find just a general road map of the county, as well as a ton of layers that you can turn on and off. In this case, I've zoomed in. You can see your high school right here on the bottom right. You can see the avenues. It's now called the collection. Up there on the top left. Let's say you're interested, you want to know what the zoning classification is. The zoning classification, we've classified all the land in the county between whether it's agricultural, commercial, residential, or industrial. And then with each one of those categories, we talk about whether it's a really intense use. An industrial would be like a manufacturing plant, or really light use industrial would be like just an office building. So when we turn on the zoning layer for the county, we can see here, you can see CBD is commercial in the red, A1 is agricultural in the green. You can see some of the residential categories here and here, and we even have a little bit of industrial on the corner. Now, we can get even more detailed with this information. So if you're interested in the avenues, if you want to click on the avenues and you want to see when was it built, what were the guidelines and stipulations when it was built, we could turn on the layer which shows us our zoning application numbers. Every time the land use has been changed in the county since the 1970s, it's been given a number. And you can see in this case, some of the newer numbers, we're up right now in the 3,600, so the cases I'm dealing with now. So you can kind of get a time frame on when things were done just by looking at the numbers. So you can see over here the avenues, it's 3040, ZA 3047, so it was rezoned, most likely from agricultural. Our second website, you can write this down as well, is estatus.forsythco.com. This website links all of the data in our GIS system that's available online to all of the information regarding the applications. And in this case, when we go to ZA 3047, we get a summary of how many acres it was, how big, what they were planning to do. You see in this case 178,000 square feet of retail and restaurant, 74,000 square feet of theater, 25,000 foot anchor store. And you can kind of see that. You know the theaters there, you know the big anchor stores there with the Academy Sports. And then they can apply for some variances. We have certain rules about how far you have to be off property lines to build your buildings, and they can request to do something different at that time. But this gives you everything, and it's all linked to our GIS. It gives you the years, it gives you the dates when they submitted, when the approvals were done, and then if you scroll down at the very bottom to related documents, you can actually click on the concept plans and the actual application document they submitted to the county. Zoning administration, this is a large part of what I do right now. As the county is growing, you know, we were the 6th fastest growing county in the nation for a very long time. The recession, of course, hit us hard, but we've picked back up substantially in just the last couple of months. So what I do from a zoning administrative point is when somebody wants to change the land use, when they want to take the land across the street from the school here that's agricultural, where there's nothing but trees and maybe a home, and they want to build a neighborhood or they want to build a shopping center, they've got to apply, they've got to make an application to the county. I have to check and make sure they've submitted everything they need to. And then they go through the process and they go in front of our different boards, our planning commission and our board of commissioners, who will actually make that final decision, yes or no, whether to allow the land use change and allow the neighborhoods to be built. Everywhere, all the new neighborhoods that you and your parents live in went through this process. Unless your home is older than the late 70s, everything in the county went through this process. Who's seen one of these signs out on the side of the road? Now that you've seen the sign, now that you know what it means, you can go and write down this number when you see one of these signs, and you can go to that eStatus website, and you can go to the GIS website, and you can plug this number in, and you can see the map of where it is, and you can find out all the information about the application and what point of the process it's in. In this case, that sign there is your ZA 3646, and this is actually Highway 141. This is just south here on 141 off to the right. Who knows of the Orchards development, the senior housing development there, if you head out of the school and go left? Okay, so what you have is you have the Orchard, which was approved a couple of years ago for senior housing. This developer here has come in and he said, I want to take this area in green and I want to build more senior housing. I want to build a higher density than what's normally allowed in the area because there's already higher density for senior housing there. So this is what I want to do. So we put this all into GIS, and then I use the GIS to make a recommendation and a staff report to our commissioners to let them know what the staff thinks should go there. You can see here it's the same thing. There's the application. You can pull it up right now. You can see they're actually planning to go in front of the Planning Commission here in about 2 weeks. And we're non-supportive at this point, and I'll go over that. So back to here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the zoning layer. So now I see what are the surrounding zonings of this property. You can see it's A1 to the west, which is agricultural, Res 6, which is our high density zoning to the north, some commercial, and then some medium density residential, which is probably what most of y'all live in, the medium density residential. So I can see here that yes, there is Res 6 to the north, which could support this, but there's also medium density residential to the south, which maybe it's a little too intensive a use. Mainly we look at this map. This is our future development map for the county. This was done, staff didn't create this. Well, we created it, but it was through heavy guidance from citizens advisory boards, steering committees, board of commissioners, and other interested citizens. This is the roadmap for how the county is going to develop over the next 20 years. You can see that most of the county is in light blue. Light blue is called suburban living, medium density residential. Only along the major highway corridors do you get something different, and in most cases it's some form of commercial or mix of commercial and residential. So what I do is I go back to our zoning case here, and I turn on the layer that shows me that future development map. In this case it's suburban living, therefore this piece of property should be Res 2 or Res 3, which is a medium density zoning district. He's requesting more than that. So in that case the staff is non-supportive. Now, the Planning Commission, the Board of Commissioners can take many more factors into consideration, such as what's adjacent, what type of product he's planning on doing, and make a decision. They can always go in a different direction than the staff. But this is how we basically pull together our staff report. And we do this for every zoning case in the county. So anytime you see one of those yellow signs, I'm out there doing this analysis using our mapping software on exactly what we think should go there and whether we support or don't support these cases. You can see here, this is suburban living. We have our comprehensive plan, and this will tell you in that light blue what's recommended there. Just a whole bunch of different things. We used to have a map that would tell you specifically your piece of property should be commercial. Nowadays, we don't have that kind of map. We just have those broad brushstrokes that say in this area, there's a couple of different things we think should go there. Current planning. Current planning is what happens when somebody calls my office and says, I'm thinking about building onto my deck, or I'm thinking about adding a swimming pool. Can you help me out? This is using our Esri software. This is also through the Maps website. You can get down. It doesn't look as good, so I pulled it up in our ArcMap software to show you. But let's say these people here want to add on to their back deck. They call me and say, you know, my name is Bob. I'm a homeowner. I've got this great pool, and I want to have a large party deck in my backyard. But I'm unsure of how close I can get to the property line or how big of a deck I can build. Can you help me out? So I'll pull up my map and I'll say, okay, great, I see your deck. What I can't really tell here is how high that deck is off the ground. So we have a different set of software in the county called pictometry. Lost my place there for a second.
Right.
Pictometry are images of the county taken at angles, and I can pretty much pull up any layer. In this case, I've got that one piece of property outlined. I could pull up any layer that I could pull up in the other maps in this one. Now this one, since the county actually purchased this software from an outside company, it's not available to you on the website. But if you come in and need to look at something, I'd be happy to pull it up for you. And so I can pull around and I can turn around, and now all of a sudden I can see this house and I can see, oh, there's a basement, and that deck sits probably 12 feet off the ground. So I can hopefully give this gentleman a little more guidance in what he needs to do as far as expanding his deck. Long-range planning. This is the final portion of what I do with the county. This is, going back to that future development map, this is talking about how the county is going to develop over the next 20 years. This is a pretty cool piece of software. Instead of writing down the address, if you just Google census on the map, this is data where the Census Department of the United States has taken, they take Social Security numbers because they know where you work, because you have to give your Social Security number to your employer who gives it to the U.S. government. And they also know where you live because they just know where addresses are linked based on Social Security numbers. So they're able to take this and they're able to do data based on where workers live and where workers work. In this case, you can see here, this is probably a little more technical. It even took me a little bit to really understand how to work this, but there's so many different things in this map here that I can choose as far as what I want to look at. In this case, I picked, I want to look at primary jobs, which is your highest paying job. So if somebody is a banker during the day but then works at a restaurant at night, then being a banker, that's their primary job. This is a map here of where the jobs are in Forsyth County based on Social Security data. You can see here the larger dots, obviously, where the chicken plants are and the square coming, and then obviously down at McFarland where we have the large plants, and then of course the hospitals. This is a map here that shows, this shows where people who work in Forsyth County, where they live. So if your job is in Forsyth County, this map is showing me where those people are coming from. You can see here that, thankfully, we have a large majority of people who live in the county who actually work here. This is the opposite. These are where the jobs at for where people, if you live inside Forsyth County, which obviously y'all do, your parents, where they work. And you can see here that it goes all the way down. You can see Perimeter Center, Alpharetta, pretty much that 400 corridors where a majority of the people who live in Forsyth County, where they work. When you put it together, you get this stat. This explains why you have so much traffic. You can see on the left here, every day we have almost 40,000 people who drive into Forsyth County for work. And on the right, you can see we have almost 59,000 people who drive from the county to somewhere else for work. And then we have about 20,000 people who stay here in the county. This explains to you why 400 is backed up in both directions, morning and night. So what we do with this data is that the McFarland Stony Point, we have a livable centers initiative. We're trying to get people to live where they work and work where they live. In this case, down along McFarland Parkway, you can see here, Here's 141, so the school's right about here. You can see down along Stony Point and all the way to McFarland and McGinnis Ferry. This area of the county we have studied. We said we got to get more people. We got to get more people living over here because there's so many great jobs. So we've gone back to this map and we've taken that specific area. We've put it in this map, and here we can see where people live who currently work inside of that area. And then when we take the inverse, we can see where people who live in the area work. And you can see here from the two, the number here is there's only 386 people who live inside the area who have jobs, when the inverse is like 5,000. So we're trying to get that number even. We're trying to see so that the blue remains inside of the orange square. So what we did is we put together that study and we put together a concept plan. This is how we're going to do it. That's it. That's how we use GIS in the planning department. Any questions? All right.
Okay, and we're actually going to, Carrie. We're actually going to let my boss, John Kilgore, finish it up because I have some questions planned for him, and he loves that. The only trick, John, is you have to stand by the microphone so they can play it back. It's okay, it's nothing too hard. I'm going to start with questions and you guys can finish up. The first question that we've been answering for them is, how did you get into GIS? What jobs or education led you to work with geography and GIS?
My GIS career started when I was in high school, and it was actually, I was going through drafting and design, and one of the instructors took us outside and we did survey work. And when I graduated high school, I went in the Marine Corps, and they have a field that's called geographic intelligence, and geodetics. We studied the shape and size of Earth, and with that, the Marine Corps and all the military basically has went. You seen when they talked about the different layers that you can put together? Well, we do the same thing in the military side, in the sense that when I want to take a vehicle or a troops from point A to point B, I have to know where the woods are, I have to know what kind of soil is there, I have to know if there's rivers to cross. All that stuff goes into that decision-making process. And then I retired from the Marine Corps and I came to work for Forsyth County. And when I came here to work for Forsyth County, how many can tell me in 2000, how many people lived in this county? No? Not even a wild guess? A swag? About 50,000. Sorry. Was that your guess? Oh. What are you going to tell me? 1,000? Wow.
That was 1890, not 1990.
Yeah, three high schools in the county at that point. Is that correct?
There was two.
Two? Was it central and south?
Central, no, central and north.
Central and north, okay.
Yep. Okay.
And the second question we were going to ask is, at your job, what are your duties and where do you see GIS going within the county and how it helps the county?
My duties as GIS director are to help the different departments, the planning department, the engineering department, the tax assessors department. We support basically everybody in the county. And I'm there just to help facilitate that. Now, when Mary Jo talked about the 5 pieces that make up GIS, the most important, and see, this is where we have our differences, the most important, she's a liberal, the most important part of that is people. People are the ones that make that decision. People are the ones that are going to be out there that are going to collect that data, you know, and put that data into those machines that are going to help you manipulate it. So, and where do I see us? You've seen so much. Jerry was good enough to get into the web aspect of it. Everything is going to the web. I mean, look at your GPS that you have in your cars. Look at your cell phones, for that matter. You know, how many of you use Google? Oh yeah, there we go. Got a reaction out of that one. But that's all a component of GIS. That's part of it, you know. But it's the people and what they have. What they have up here as far as imagination. Who was it? Einstein once said that. Was it knowledge?
Imagination.
Well, I know that something about in the sense that with that there was really no need for knowledge. It was all about imagination. Well, GIS takes that knowledge or takes that imagination and puts with the knowledge. You know, it's about thinking of where you want to go, what you want to do with GIS. One of the things that we're working on right now is looking at how can the county take their assets, their computers, their plotters, their printers, and things like that within each building, and be able to use GIS in the sense that if I click on this building, I know that there's a laptop in that room. I know there's a printer in that room. I know what OS is being run. I mean, the list can go on and on and on and on. So it's just, right now, I'd say we were in our infancy, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
As the director of our department, you've obviously spearheaded many projects and many things that we've gone forward with.
Yes, ma'am.
But I wondered if you could tell them a little bit about one of our special projects, the GIS OT.
The GIS.
Response trailer.
Oh, okay. We have, we work real close with public safety, and we also, for major disasters and things like that, we would help assist. And we have been in the process, the fire department was getting rid of a 33-foot trailer. I wish I don't have any photos, but they were getting rid of a 30-foot trailer. And we took that trailer and we remodeled it to assist us so that we have remote access to it. We have a server in there, and we bring our laptops and we connect, and we can connect to all these different layers of information. Unfortunately, we do a lot of work on the lake, but we're just about completed with that, so we will hopefully be showing it off here shortly.
And I think the reason why that's an interesting project is, I think you've heard Jerry and I talk very lovingly about our jobs that are at our desk, analyzing these big data sets. But careers in geography and GIS can also lead you to a very mobile, marine-based, or even response trailer, 911 services kind of based job. So don't think it's just about sitting behind a desk forever. You can do all kinds of things.
Well, Jerry was showing you some of the pictometry, and believe it or not, we have laptops in all of our fire department vehicles, and pictometry is part of that package, that software package that we have in there. When a call comes into the 911 center, that call, when it gets routed to a fire station, the information, the address information gets sent to that computer that's already in the truck. The guys are just getting out of the rack, they're just waking up. That computer's already thinking for them. But when that house shows up, or that address goes into that computer, it will automatically go to this house. And once it gets to that house, and Can anybody tell me what that is? Fire hydrant. You know, we went out and we've collected every GPS point on all these fire hydrants that are out there in the county. So he's driving down the road, he can automatically take and he can do a measurement and he can tell out how much hose he has to lay out. He can see, he's got to tell his guys to be careful, it's night. They're not going to see that pool. So, and if you go to the other image, that one there, he can automatically go in there and he can measure from the ground to that top floor, to that window. So he has all that information to make decisions. It's amazing stuff. Cool stuff.
All right, does anybody have a question for any of the three of us about GIS or how we use GIS or careers in GIS? You in the back in the green.
So where do, and this is for anybody, where do we see projected out in the next couple of years the greatest growth, whether we're talking about job growth or even just residential growth, do you think is going to be in the county?
Well,
That's a planning question.
residential growth automatically is going to be the highest growth center in the county. And GIS-wise, I think what you're going to see in the future is that right now a lot of what they do is laptop-based or desktop-based, being the office explaining to somebody on the phone. What you're going to find in the future is that with tablets, especially with iPads, that they have GPS built into them. They have the accelerometer and I forget what the other thing is called in there. But anyways, it can tell you exactly where in space it is and what it's looking at. And by using augmented reality, the inspectors, the firefighters, the planners are going to be able to go out in the field and hold up that iPad with the camera on and look at a building, and the iPad is going to know what we're looking at, and it's going to be able to give us all of that data. And it's going to pull it from our online database of eStatus, it's going to pull it from all of the GIS databases, and then things like pictometry in the future as well. That will help greatly, especially with residential stuff. When you have commercial, you have one large building. When you have residential, you could have a neighborhood with 200 homes being built into it. So if you go out in a neighborhood that's under construction, there's no addresses listed. There's trucks everywhere. It's tough to tell what building you're at. Well, by having that GIS data in your device, by being able to go down these streets, you can pinpoint exactly where the inspectors are needed to go and what they're looking at.
Yeah, I guess it was Jerry, you were talking about, was that Stony Point, the Farland corridor?
Yes.
And it was mainly about, getting people to live in the area where they work. But what are some of the, I don't know, what's happening with zoning, or what are some of the businesses and things we're trying to attract to the county, and I guess what are we doing in order to attract those particular?
The county has a couple of major industries. We have, in this area, there's a large Siemens plant down here, does engineering. Then of course you have the hospital area, and then you have the two large chicken plants right inside the city of Cumming. Those are your major industry. What we're trying to do in this area is we're trying to bring in all of the sub-industry. In other words, and I guess the easiest way to point this is if you ever drive down 85 towards Alabama, they built that large Kia plant to build all of those new Kia cars. Well, they got to have other stuff too. It's not all Kia parts. There may be smaller companies that provide parts like the dashboard or the gauges or some sort of widget that goes in the engine. So the idea here is that we want to draw those kind of businesses to our county that support, for example, the Siemens plant up here, they do design work. Siemens is doing the design work on these new streetcars that are being installed in downtown Atlanta right now. Well, there's things that go into the streetcars that Siemens doesn't build or design. We want to bring those companies here, so that you've got the main designer and all of their subordinate and then all of their supportive industries right next door to each other. Because right now, that Siemens guy may have to drive, the engineer may have to drive to Alpharetta to look at something, or may have to drive to Perimeter Center. Well, if we can bring those jobs here, and we can create housing for those people, because higher income people want nicer homes, and we could bring all of that into the same area, then we could prevent more people getting off 400 in the morning and going downtown or coming up to us. We could put everybody in the same corridor. And by knowing through our GIS, by knowing where people are going right now for work, we can determine what areas we need to target to bring those jobs back up here, and we can create these kind of concept plans and guide the development as people sell their land and come in to rezone and they want to build residential. We can say, okay, that's great, but we really want this kind of residential, we want these kind of streets, we want it to look a certain way, because we know that if it's done that way, it will attract those workers to that area. Yes?
What other departments of public safety does GIS work with?
What was the question?
What other departments do you work with other than public safety?
We
No,
work
he
with.
said what are the departments in public?
Oh.
Oh,
Other-
in public
other than
safety?
Fire department.
We work with the sheriff's department. I don't know if that's those public on that. Well, the 911 center, we do work with the sheriff on a lot of different aspects of their job. We work with the different dive teams, specialty teams that the fire department has, like their hazmat, their hazardous materials response teams. We've worked with the FBI, DIA, DEA on some of their projects and task force. But, I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter what department you work in. I mean, GIS can support you, you know. We help, actually, one of the gentlemen that actually works for the school system at the administration building there, used to work for the county. And he helps do all the bus routing and figuring out what areas are gonna go to what schools now. So, we're there, we're everywhere, whether you like us or not.
All right, I have a last question. Does anybody remember the website to find out about Forsyth County information?
Maps.forsythco.com.
Ding! Okay, now, and I'm sorry, I don't have enough balls for everybody, because John is mean to me, but I did bring pens, so I'll give those to Mr. Elrod, and I'll let him pass those out at appropriate time. You will get your GIS pen, so you'll remember, GIS, Geographic Information Systems, hardware, software, people, data, models, methodology, and it's just putting all of those together, analyzing, displaying, and using those to help people make decisions. So I hope that answers your questions about GIS, and we're happy to have come today.